or is that just a background, like a backdrop?
As if I know how to put the background on.
She's got the world's best green screen happening behind her.
Like choose something natural, something natural.
Actually, we tried to do the backgrounds there when Jackie sent them out for whatever week it was, tourism week or something.
Just
And,
remember, we are live on YouTube.
We are live on YouTube now.
And without the green screen behind us, it was like it just, it was like shiny face, like you were like a part of the scene or whatever. It was really, really funny, actually. Did not work.
I'm starting the recording as well.
Okay.
Welcome to North.
All right.
Gary McFarland.
Oh, hi, Gary.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Oh, Kurt's here. All right. So Councillors McDonald and Miro both indicated that they wouldn't be able to make it tonight. So I think we are ready to call to order at 7:02. So as discussed on Monday night, there were a couple of changes to the agenda. Item 4.2 was removed and item 8.6 was added. Was there any further changes to the agenda that anyone had? Again, seeing none. All right, with that, I'll look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Salatke, seconded by Councillor Loreen. Any questions or comments there? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved, thank you. Declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Not seeing any. Okay, on to delegations, presentations, or petitions. On Monday night, we did have the RCMP report. I don't believe we had any information we were waiting for from that, so we'll be able to move on. Public question period, again, we had none. And on to adoption of the minutes. 6.1, the minutes of the July 13th and 15th council meeting minutes. I will look for a mover, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Councillor McBride, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 6.2, the minutes of the July 20th, 2020 Public Works Committee meeting. I'll look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Salatke, seconded by Councillor Loreen. Any further questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. On to item 6.3, minutes of the July 30th, 2020 council meeting. Look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Salatke. Any questions or comments on these meeting minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved, thank you. On to the action items list. We did have quite a few updates on Monday night. Were there any further questions or comments this evening? Seeing none. I'm working on like the smallest table in the room, so just bear with me here. All right. So item 8.1 is the NWT Shop Local Day Proclamation. So recommendation is that whereas the council members of the town of Inuvik agree that the 8th day of September 2020 be designated as Shop Local Day, and whereas Shop Local Day encourages the importance of shopping local in the town of Inuvik and the Northwest Territories, and whereas Inuvik's local businesses help preserve the uniqueness of the community we call home and give us a sense of place, and whereas Inuvik's small businesses give back to our communities in goods, services, time, and talent, And whereas Inuvik small businesses enrich community members' shopping experience with their knowledge and passion. And whereas the purpose of this day is to raise awareness in the community of the importance of shopping local. Now, therefore, I, Natasha Kulikowski, Mayor of the Town of Inuvik, do hereby proclaim September 8th, 2020 as Inuvik Shop Local Day in the Town of Inuvik. Huzzah. All right, and we will have some advertising and promotions going on through our ECDev and tourism department to support this day as well, to encourage people to get out, as well as I believe that's Shop Local Week that's happening in October. We also have some events planned. So there will definitely be some opportunities for folks to take part. With that, we'll move on to 8.2, the strategic priorities chart. Council Administrator Stephanie Sutton sent out an updated version of the chart this afternoon, which basically takes into account the things that we discussed on Monday night. So I will read the recommendation and then we can discuss it further if needed. So recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves the revised council priorities section of the strategic priorities chart and request administration review and adjust the operational strategies portion and bring forward to council for approval based on the revised council priorities. Look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Barlak, seconded by Councillor Loreen. Now it's open for discussion. Any further questions or comments on the item, the strategic priorities chart? And I am seeing none and hearing none. So with that, we'll call it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. So 8.3 is the application for community rec and sport contribution funding. Recommendation that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves the application for funding under the Municipal and Community Affairs Community Recreation and Sport Contribution Program in the amount of $43,000. Look for a mover, please.
move.
Moved by Councillor McBride, seconded by Councillor Salatke. Any questions or comments on the application? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you very much. With that, we'll move to 8.4, which is the request for reduction of tipping fees. There were some questions asked by council on Monday night to come back with for tonight. And I believe, well, I know that we do have some more information to share this evening. I did also send out the dumping fees bylaw for folks to review this afternoon. I'm not sure if you want me to share the information or Director Campbell, if you want to share. How do we want to go about this?
I'm fine if you want to share it. Go right ahead and
Okay.
I'll jump.
All right. So
I'll jump
Director
in if you
Campbell,
need.
okay. Director Campbell did have opportunity to speak with Vince Brown of the Mackenzie Delta Hotel Group and ask some of the questions that council had asked. And so the questions about how many loads, the total load for the two projects that we're asking about, which would be the back part and then the main part of the building, is 200 to 250. Each section being about 100 to 125 loads. They're basing it on 100 loads with 50 total, give or take kind of thing. For the back section, which would be the first part to be completed, the company who would be doing the trucking has offered to do the capping. For the second part, the main part of the building, which would be the later project, there is no offer from the operator to do the capping. So if we're looking at reductions, I think that we would almost have to look at it in two projects within the project because of the cost difference to our operator, whether someone else is doing the capping or we're doing it on site, or sorry, by the operator. I'm not sure if I missed anything here. Oh, total values. So total value of 200 to 250 loads would be $65,000 to $81,250. Or if you break that down to 125 each, would be about $32,500 to $40,600. So with that, I will open it up to questions from council, and then we will have to come up with what our recommendation and move will be. So, and we do of course have Director Campbell here if there are more questions from the floor. So Councillor Wood, go ahead.
First off, the first item is not really a question. I think we should be developing guidelines on discounting tipping fees. I've been involved in a fair number of them over the years, and it almost seems like council has a dartboard on how much discount we're going to give and what day of the week it is. Maybe we could develop something based on, for example, 100 loads, the maximum we can give is 10%. 200 loads, a maximum for that, and so on. That way we have some guidelines. Because like I say, it just depends on who's on council at the time, what kind of a discount a contractor gets. The second point I would like to make, and this is part of the tipping fees, I don't think we should be, in the majority of cases, having somebody else do the capping when we have a contractor who bid in good faith on the contract, not getting the fees to do the capping, which he should be doing. Just a personal feeling, but I think it's a valid one. I'd sooner see our own contractor do the capping and make the revenue from it. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Anyone else like to say anything? I'm not sure there's a response. I do know the development of guidelines was something that we discussed after our meetings in January and February, and I do believe they're on the agenda, but they've certainly not started yet.
Mayor Kulikowski, it's Grant here. May I just
Go
make
ahead.
a comment? And thank you, Councillor Wood, for your comments. It is something that we are thinking about on the discounting and coming up with certain things. I'll just remind council that on the tipping fees, so for the $325 or whatever it is, the contractor gets half per the contract or whatever, half the contract. That is to cover the capping. They would not get any extra money for the capping unless council, I guess, has the option, if they looked at it, on giving a deeper discount. And then, as one of the 4 options that I had proposed, was then that they have to use the contractor for the capping.
Okay, thank you, SAO Hood. Anyone else have any questions or comments here? Councillor Barlack?
It's,
Oh, Gary, we'll just let Steve go and then.
I was just whipped out my calculator here and did a quick bit of mathematics as well, because I think in the in-town discounts with the fee structure we're looking at, I just thought, okay, what would a 10% versus say a 15% discount look like, depending on whether the capping was included with the work or not. This is something to work with off the top. So a 15% discount represents about a $10,000 discount overall for the whole thing, for the 65,000 total for both. And the 10% represents whatever it is, about $7,500. So just something to keep in mind while we're talking about this as well. We haven't really talked about what we're looking at doing as far as if we're going to give a discount, what it would look like. So I just wanted to play with some actual numbers, but 15% equals about $10,000 off the 65 for the total project.
Councillor McBride, did you want to go ahead?
yeah, I just wanted to, sort of agree with Councillor Wood regarding the fact that if, we do an option where they're responsible for their own tipping, we really prefer that they use the contractor, so the contractor gets additional funds from it. So it's, try and support the contractor at the dump site as much as possible. And that also eliminates a lot of issues in terms of, how this money being spent. So I sort of agree with what Councillor Wood's saying, and I understand what Councillor Barlick's saying. It's, it's not really a significant amount of money in the great scheme of things, and but we do need to develop a standard that we're going to use.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McBride. Councillor Salaki?
I think Councillor Wood is correct that we need to make sure that the contractor who took this on gets the amount. But I think we already have set a precedent. The fact that we gave a 50% discount to an out of town means that someone in town is going to say, why was I not given the same discount? So I think that as a council, we've already stepped up and said that. And also it's in our best interest to get rid of that building. So anything we can do to help them get rid of that building is also good to keep people working, get that space cleaned up, get our downtown core cleaned up. So I think we should really consider giving them a decent discount on this work to be done.
All
If I
right.
may again, one point,
Go ahead, Councillor McBride.
the 50% discount given to the guys falling down from Tuck was based on the fact that they were paying for the capping and doing the capping themselves. So that was one of the reasons why the discount was a little bit more generous than would normally be. So we have to factor that in as well as what is the capping cost.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree with that too.
Okay. Councillor Barlick.
Yeah, I would just say another factor in the consideration of all this too is the tipping structure is a lot different because we were dealing with an out of town tipping schedule, which had a load of $1,000 per load versus the 325 we're talking about now. So the cost to the people doing the work is quite a bit significantly higher in the out of town considerations. Plus the amount of loads that we had were probably almost double what we're talking about here. So it's an economies of scale thing as well. The more loads you have, the deeper discount you may want to look at giving. So we're talking only about half as many loads as what was done in the previous work. And we have a significantly lower fee, tipping fee schedule. So a couple other things to consider in our discussions. So whether we want to go all the way to 50%, I don't know if I'd be quite at that level with this amount of loads and this lower level of fee structure. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what other people have to think about it.
Okay. Councillor Wood, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Barlick as far as out of town and in town. But the big thing is it just gives us more incentive to develop guidelines, because if we do, then past precedent really means nothing, because now we have guidelines to work from. If we don't have them, yes, precedent means something. But I think if we have the guidelines in place, we're good. And it gives us something concrete to work on.
Great, thank you, Councillor Wood. Councillor Loreen.
Yeah, I agree with what they're saying about the guidelines. I think that definitely it falls into tiers, like of structures. Like if you have X number of loads, then you meet that threshold, then we'll give you this much of a discount. But until you make that cap, then you get this kind of discount, right? So it'll be tabled out or structured like that, I think. But as far as this one goes, I think I'm okay with giving them approving it the discount they want or what we're talking about here, but include the tipping fees in the second one, right? Because we're going to want to make sure we get paid, or that it's not coming out of the contractor's pocket, because that's what we were talking about here is impact on the dump contractor, right? So if people are paying for the capping, then that's not affecting him until he has to do it himself. So I think on the second one, that's just something to keep in mind.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Loreen. Councillor Salatke.
As someone who's not a contractor, I would love to hear from either Councillor Wayman or from Director Campbell as to what numbers they think would be appropriate. That would be helpful. I agree with the difference from the out of town and the tipping fees, and also for the lower rate. I'm just saying that we need to look at something that's very fair. And as this isn't something in my wheelhouse, I don't have a clue what a fair number would be. So if somebody who has some ground expertise on this had a number to throw out, or SAO Hood had something, I would really love to hear, because otherwise we could go back and forth. I think we all sounds like we agree on probably option 4, but it would be nice to hear a potential number that you guys think would be appropriate.
Okay. Councillor Wainman, go ahead.
So we still split the 325 50-50 with the dump contractor, correct?
It's up to the decision here, how
The
it would be
dumping fees?
split. But as it's said in the
then we're
bylaw,
gonna
clearly, yes, that's correct.
So that means really so then the town's gonna go into debt doing this? I don't see that. Because he's got to
Yeah.
cap this. If we're telling the dump contractor he's got to cap this, we're gonna give a discount, plus he's got to cap this. Our contractor has to cap this for us, right?
The way that it looks right now, if council went forward with how the hotel group is presenting it, is that the first part, which would be the back part of the building, could, I should say, not would, but could come with capping included from their contractor. The second part, which would be which is estimated to be the same amount of loads, would come with the capping being under our solid waste contractor.
So if we were to charge them $325 a load and we split 50-50 the dump contractor, and then we get the dump contractor to bury it, then the town pays extra for him to bury it, or is that included in his 50-50 split?
We'll have to ask Director Campbell or SAO Hood for an answer to that one.
Yeah,
That's included in his fees.
that's
sorry.
included in his
Yeah,
loads,
yeah.
his 50 split with us?
No, the portion that he splits, the dump operator gets is 50% of what we get, and included in that, he has to provide the capping.
Okay. So that's no out of expense to the town then, you're saying, right?
No, unless we give a discount, and if we give a discount on our side, but I mean, if they're doing the capping, it should be,
The reason I'm asking
way
is
I
just
look at it.
a very low number, like
Yeah.
at 325, and then to give a discount, and then to get him, I mean, and then like a contractor wants to bury it, that's his job, and then we give them. I'm just trying to figure out the number, that's so we don't go in debt as the town.
Well, if I may, one way to possibly think about it is if you have the job being done with the contractor doing the capping part, then there's no out-of-pocket expense for the landfill operator because he doesn't have to do the work, so he doesn't have to operate the equipment and pay for the fuel and all the other stuff. So in that case, if the contractor is doing the capping, then you can basically equally split the discount between the town and the contractor. But if the contractor is expected to do the capping, then we may want to do a staggered discount where the town takes the hit on the discount while the operator still maintains his full fees because he's still expected to do that capping work. So again, that's if we want to split that out per se, but if the tipping and the capping is being done by the contractor, so there's no necessarily out-of-pocket fees for the landfill operator, then really the discount should be split equally between the town and the operator in that instance, I would think.
Thank you, Councillor Barlick. Councillor Wainman?
I'm just trying to, like, the number is so small as I'm just trying to figure out, it's a small number.
We're talking about a few $1,000s.
50-50 on the contract. Yeah, it just seems to be a very tight number, right? If we're to give a discount or if we're to expect it to lie on the contractor, it's pretty tight either way. How many loads is that again in total?
200 to
That
250
200
between two projects.
So for the whole thing or just for the back half?
That's for the whole thing. It's 100 to 125 per project.
Yeah,
So
32.5 for each
yeah,
section.
32.5 to 35,000, say, to average it off. And you split it.
No, we just lost Councillor
Yeah,
Wood.
it's kind of tight numbers.
Oh, there he is. So one of the things that, as Councillor Barlick has suggested, that we could potentially do with this situation is that if there's any discount applied on this first project, which is the back of the building, it would be a different discount because the trucking contractor would do the capping versus the second part of the project where our solid waste facility contractor would be doing the capping. So we could do a staggered discount if council decides to do a discount. Councillor Selecki?
So I was at the dump this weekend and had a little bit of a chat with Jesse. And he was saying one of his concerns is we are in the middle of a pandemic where other people are now coming onto his job site to do capping. And he does have concerns over different protocols of people coming in. I know it's a big space, but it is something that we should take into account. So shouldn't he be doing his own capping at this point in time, even if it means us giving a lower discount?
Thank you. Point taken.
No,
Councilor Barlow?
in our resolutions, it says that the capping has to be done to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Services. So whether it's the landfill contractor doing it or somebody else in this case, it should be being done to the level that our director is expecting it to be done at. So it'll have to be approved either way, essentially, by our own department, whether Mr. Harder does it or somebody else does it. So while they may do it differently going in there, in the end result of the capping has to be at the same level of quality or same standard, either way. So, and I guess when I was talking earlier about staggering discounts too, it's really, you can offer the same discount to, say, the contractor for the whole project, but just how you allocate that discount on the back end between the landfill contractor and the town's portions, that's where things may change. But if you want to give an overall, well, again, I'll throw out 15%, which is about $10,000 off of the 65 total. So that's $10,000 savings to the hotel group in this case, but where that money gets, the fees get allocated in the back end would be where you switch from one to the other, where the hotel group may be responsible for capping versus the landfill operator. Because if the landfill operator is doing it, he has those costs he has to incur to do that capping work. So he should probably get his regular fee schedule, that the 50%. Whereas if we're, say, giving a 15% discount on the other side where the hotel group's doing the capping, then we may want to split that 7.5% discount evenly on both sides of the tipping fees, so that the town's losing 7.5% and the operator's losing 7.5%, but the operator's not having to do the costly capping operation portion of the work. So that's what I was trying to suggest earlier.
Okay, thank you. Was there anything further from council or SAO Hood or Director Campbell? Did you have anything to add here?
I think this is very good discussion. Councillor Barlock, I think has the right direction of where as an administration doing is, and Mayor, you mentioned it right at the beginning of the discussion, is I think you have to look at these at two different ways, different projects where if council says no, you can have somebody else do the capping. It was pointed out, and I agree, is that that the contractor is not incurring any cost because of it. So you might want to be able to give a bigger discount for that portion. But for the back end where the contractor is having to do the capping, I think you have to be very wary of their costs, and the fee structure is sort of set up that way. So taking into consideration some of their costs for the capping. So there again, council could give a smaller discount, or if council wants to keep the same discount and again, change it on the back end. I'll just remind council, these are actually numbers weren't, we just passed our fiscal budget. These numbers weren't anticipated in the budget, these revenues as well. So while it will have some impact for the reduction, overall from a budgetary point of view, this is money that was not budgeted for as far as revenue goes. So if somebody's worried about that part of it and adjusting on the town's fiscal budget, it will have a minimal impact given whatever discount you have to give.
Thank you, SAO Hood. Councillor Barlock?
Yeah, no, thank you. And just keeping in line with what Grant was suggested about perhaps splitting the project, and also what Councillor Salaki was mentioning earlier about what we did earlier and the bigger discount for the higher number of loads. That was a 50% discount for roughly 400 loads. If we're, say, looking at 200 loads and you want to do a 25% discount, in this case, I just, again, quickly punched it in the calculator, that's what 16,250. So what, 8,000 on each end of the project at the 25% level. But again, if you're doing what SAO Hood suggested, where the contractor caps versus the operator caps, where there's a reduced cost overall, because the operator doesn't have to cap. If you want to look at the 25%, that's say $8,000 in savings to the hotel group in that case. Whereas if we have to continue to pay the operator to do the capping, we may want to consider that 15% in that case, because we do still have the town may take a little bit of a higher hit because if we want to keep the landfill operator's costs at the full amount of the normal loads, 160, 250 or whatever it is. Anyways, hopefully I'm not confusing people with the math, but just again, trying to think a line how all this may pan out. And this is the kind of stuff that could be incorporated into guidelines as well. But there's a higher cost to the town overall, I would say, if we have the landfill operator having to do the capping, because he will have out-of-pocket expenses to do that. And that's where we may want to consider still offering him the full fee amount for the normal 50% of the normal tipping fee amount.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barlick. So having heard from everyone at the table, I guess right now I'm going to look for a motion from council. Like, what is the percentage that we want to move forward with? Do you want to move forward with a percentage? What is that percentage? And then how do we actually go about administering it? Like we say, if we're going to do it staggered with 2 projects. Yeah, so I will look for, I guess, either further discussion on the percentages themselves or a motion at this time. Councillor Barlick.
Again, I don't know exactly how you want to word it into the current recommendations we have. If perhaps looking at it as the operator capping the first portion of the project and the town being responsible for the second portion, if we move to, say, give a 25% discount on the first half of the project, that's again an $8,000 savings on that end. That could be split equally between the operator and the town. And then on the back end, the second portion of the project at a 15% discount, that's roughly a $5,000 savings to the hotel group. And in that case, the town would take the hit in the discount and the operator would still get their full fees. So if other councillors think that's fair approach, I would suggest those 2 discount levels, because same thing, if the hotel group's doing the capping, that is additional expense on their part. So they may be valid to give them a slightly higher discount level at that point, because they are going to pay for those additional costs to the capping work in the landfill. But that's what I may suggest, that we're going to look at split costs, 25% if the hotel group caps, 15% if the landfill operator caps. Let's put it $8,000 versus $5,000 savings. So if you did it split, that's about $13,000 overall, or just a little bit higher, $13,000 to $14,000.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to make that an official motion yet. I do think we should have a little discussion on the percentages, if there is any. If council agrees that these are where we want to go, then I will make that motion now. So I guess I'll entertain any further thoughts now, or I can go ahead and try to read this as it is. I'm not seeing any hands up. So
I would suggest go ahead and read it.
all right, thank you, Councillor McBride. So, and please bear with me here in case we have to make some changes, but recommendation would be that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves a reduced tipping fee of 25% for the Eskimo Inn demolition debris, and Mackenzie Delta Hotel Group shall be responsible for the cost of capping the debris by the current, cost of capping the debris, I guess for part 1 of the project. Does that sound right to people?
Do we maybe even perhaps want to just do part 1 for the moment, and then this can be done as a second motion later on? So I don't know if there's been any further information that Councillor Wayman mentioned the other day, that they were potentially considering doing all of it this 1 year, or is that no longer being considered?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, the intention is to do part 1 within the next few weeks, and to have part 2 completed within 2020. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier in my update.
2021, you mean?
No, this year.
So do all, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we want to do 2 separate motions then.
Okay, that's also a possibility.
Motion 1 for part 1, motion 2 for part 2. And then you're basically utilizing option 3 and option 4 for each motion respectively. Oh, actually, that wouldn't quite be right. Because option 4, it says that the hotel group would pay the contractor, or the responsible for the cost. So we'd actually use option 2 for the second motion, which is they just have a reduced tipping fee of X amount, period. And then the landfill operator does the capping after that, as per usual.
Okay, and then do we also want to add the caveat that with the 15%, that the reduction is on the town of Inuvik split only, or that it goes on to both the town of Inuvik and the contractor at the solid waste site?
I think the way I suggested it would be the town taking the discount and the
Just
operators.
wanted to be sure.
I don't know if that needs to be in the resolution or if that's just operationally after the fact. But for clarity, you may want to include in the resolution.
I'll just check with SAO Hood, but I think it needs to be in the resolution. SAO Hood?
Administration would love to have it in the motion, please.
Okay.
And again, playing with my calculator further, the town would lose a whopping $48.75 per load on the 15% discount if we took the full discount for the town. So you'd be getting $113 and change per load as opposed to $162 per load, $162.50. So just so we're all working with numbers.
Okay. All right, I will give this another shot. So our first motion then on the table will be that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves a reduced tipping fee on part 1 of 25% for the Eskimo Inn demolition debris, and the Mackenzie Delta Hotel Group shall be responsible for the cost of capping the debris to the satisfaction of the town's Director of Public Services. We'll look for a mover, please, which I think should be Councillor Barlick. Thank you. And a seconder. Moved by Councillor Wood. So now that the motion's been read and we do have it on the table or on the floor, are there any further comments on this motion? And I'm seeing none, so we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved, thank you. All right, now motion number 2 from this recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves a reduced tipping fee of 15% for the Eskimo Inn demolition debris, with the solid waste contractor receiving the regular 50% fee split and the discount applying to the town of Inuvik half of the fee split only. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Salatki, seconded by Councillor Barlick. Now, questions or comments on that motion? And I am seeing none. So with that, we'll call this to a vote as well. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. Thank you for your time and attention on this item. So next up we have, we had the presentations on Monday of the recreation facility utilization report. Were there any further questions or items on that one this evening? Not seeing any. Item 8.6 was the Chief Jim Couey Park redevelopment presentation. Were there any further questions or comments on that one this evening?
I would
Against,
just note, we seem to be getting a bit of positive reception about it so far. So it's good
thank
news.
you, Council Barlick. All right, so then we can move on to the bylaws. 9.1, the 2020 annual tax billing bylaw. Recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby gives third and final reading to bylaw 2652, tax 20, the 2020 annual tax billing bylaw. I'll look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Barlick. Any questions or comments on the bylaw? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved, thank you. With that, we have our department head reports, so I will make a motion for approval, and then if there are any further questions, we can go through them. Motion is that Inuvik Town Council hereby adopts the following department reports as presented. 10.1, the Senior Administrative Officer's Report. 10.2, the Capital Projects Report. 10.3, the Planning and Development Report. 10.4, the Community Services Report. 10.5, the Protective Services Report, and 10.6, the Economic Development and Tourism Report. May I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor McBride. If questions or comments on any of the reports? Seeing none. All right, with that, we'll call to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We had information items from Aurora Research, and then council concerns. Were there any further concerns this evening? I am seeing none. We do not have in camera tonight, so I will look for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor
So moved.
Loreen. Thank you very much, everyone. We do have